I was watching the Republican debate, that's the one that CNN did just the other day, and man, I got to tell you, I was cringing. A lot of it was, well, ridiculous. It's as if the questions were set up just to have the candidates attack each other, talk about each other, versus talking about real issues, about how to solve things, and about what their policies are going to look like. There were stupid questions and really on stupid statements. I don't understand why we care about what Trump says about Carly Fiorina's face when there are so many other things there to talk about. And, it's about problem solving, about real issues. How about these 20 when they set up the next debate, or whether it be Democratic or Republican, or whether it be when we get down to just one presidential nominee on either side. Foreign policy. We have $45 billion in foreign aid going out. Who's our friends? Who's not our friends? We make a deal with Iran, who has clearly been an enemy, and who constantly threaten Israel, say they won't be around in 25 years, have threatened us. This deal is absolutely insane. We also need to deal with rogue states like North Korea, who actually has nukes and is constantly threatening South Korea down there. And how about Assad? And the travesty that's going on in Syria. What about the issue of terrorism and Islamist extremists and ISIS? We need a leader out there that is going to bring in the UN and is going to stop any genocide that is going on in this world. And we have not had a leader. Obama has not done that at all. So what about that issue? And what about immigration? We've got an immigration law that is a travesty. We have to deal with laws because we're not dealing with sanctuary cities. We don't actually follow our laws, do we? We have a president that will selectively decide which laws need to be enforced, and our immigration policies, the problem with that has to end. That goes all the way into issues also about welfare, because there is massive abuses there in welfare. We have to end the nanny state that gives 47 million people food stamps, and some 150 million people, nearly 50% of society, gets something from some government entity. If we would stop all of that and we would get immigration under control, then we wouldn't have illegals filling jobs that people are on welfare could take. But we don't have anybody out there talking about that issue because it's not politically correct. What about our public pensions? I don't hear anybody talking about more than $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities, a time bomb out there that is ticking. What about the collision? Well, we hear a bit about this, of law and religious rights, gay rights, as we now have that going on. That's something that has to be solved. We have some talk about that, but nobody is really coming up with solid answers. And women's rights. Should there be public funding for Planned Parenthood? For anything that's related to that. We need to solve a big issue there. They're not coming up with answers on that one. Obamacare. There's Republicans. Where is your viable alternative to this? This policy that is filled with confiscatory mandates, essentially telling us what we need to do and what we need to buy. And this is a job killer out there. You want to know why we have, almost 11% unemployment rate in U6 because of all the part-time work out there? That's why we have it. But where's the people coming up with viable alternatives to a very, very bad program? You could come up with other alternatives like universal health care, but take a look in Canada and you'll see 18 to 30 week waits to go see a doctor. So a lot of these answers they're coming up with are not very, very good. I'm going down the list here of policies that they're not talking about about, and that we have CNN asking ridiculous questions. How about Common Core? We put all the kids into a box, give them the same standards of learning, and then we encumber them with testing. And what about those kids out there that are going to excel? This is not a good solution to make everybody learn the same way, and I hope that they come out and revoke these Common Core policies. What about education costs? A lot of people are not talking about that. We have massive college inflation. Where does that come from? Well, we make loans to students that we shouldn't make loans to. We have an enormous dropout rate in the area of 44%, $1.4 trillion in money out there that is owned by students. And we're really talking about forgiveness. All of these things encourage these colleges to raise and raise and raise their prices because we make the money too easy. Everybody's not supposed to go to college. There's many other avenues to take out there in entrepreneurship or learning trades, but we push people to go into college, and that makes these salaries go up and pensions go up, and it makes costs go up to education, and it makes it less affordable. Somebody has to deal with those issues, and they're not talking about. How about decriminalizing drugs? Our prisons are filled with people in there, with kids that make mistakes and that are essentially learning to be criminals while they're in our prisons rather than getting help. So we need to decriminalize drugs, and there's not enough being said out there about that. Race relations, man, you can't tell me that since we've had a black president, things have gotten better. Black leaders, they speak selectively about these issues, and we need to get black leaders out there doing something that is talking about these issues in a way for blacks and whites and for everybody. Black Lives Matter advocates killing police. We don't have enough of the black leaders and President Obama and those people speaking up against that, and we have to, in these debates, bring up these really tough subjects. Where are those conversations? I want to know, CNN, in case rather than the things that you're talking about. I'm still going down the line here about our economy. We have an FOMC. We've seen them now holding rates for some 6 years at zero. We have academics running our country, and we're allowing the liberals to do that, and there's no accountability to what they do. What happens in our next crisis and we have 0% interest rates? It's stupid stuff, and we're not talking about this. The FOMC is responsible for our wide economic swings, and we need to do something about taking the control away from 12 academic bankers and run this country the way it's supposed to be run, with sensible governance. That takes us to the size of government, doesn't it? By the time the next president gets in there, they're going to have a $20 trillion debt. $20 trillion debt. It is incredible about this size of government. Over 2,000 departments and agencies in our government. Deficit spending, out of control, sensible governance, not even in the picture. Why aren't they talking about that stuff? How about defense spending? 662 sizable military bases in 38 countries in the U.S. I think that we need to have a powerful defense, but do we need to have these massive amount of military in areas that, well, huge number in Germany, huge number in Hawaii? Are we worried about Germany attacking us? Do we need to control Europe that way? Stupid stuff, and nobody's talking about that, about getting our government under control and spending under control. If we would do that, we'd have the money for, well, education, for people that really need it. And how about repair of our infrastructure that everybody talks about? Well, we've got to spend that money. We don't have the money. Nobody talks about we can't spend money that we don't have, and we need to get these conversations going on in the debates instead of the stupid conversations that we're having right now. How about the environment? The government spends $22 billion on environmental issues that we don't even know if it's true science. We could be spending some of that on education and on our infrastructure also, and tax reform. I mean, how about that one? when we have a tax code that is extraordinarily massive. We have insane tax laws. We have insane tax levels. Corporate tax level, the biggest in the world. No wonder our money is going out to other countries and won't come back here. If the money would come back here, we'd get growth. We'd have job growth. That's another big thing. How about our job growth? It looks like we have decent job growth, but we don't. 200,000 average jobs created a month, and a 5.1% unemployment rate. It's based on 0% interest policy. It's ridiculous stuff, and they're not talking about it. How about gun control? 300+ million guns here, and we're talking about, you know, taking guns away from owners. You do that in this country like Australia did, where they confiscated the guns from everybody. There's going to be an uprising in this country that's going to be chaotic. We need to come up with solutions about people getting guns that shouldn't get guns. There are so many other things. One of the biggest ones that Bernie Sanders is talking about, his signature issue, is income inequality. Stop aiming at high earners, and let's describe and come up with policies that encourage small business. Obamacare is a job killer, and we need to help people in low income, and we need to help people in inner cities understand that there are paths to success for them, and to also lift them into the middle class and lift the middle class. We do that through free enterprise, and we don't have enough discussion about free enterprise, and enough discussion about getting rid of all of these people that are dependent on our government rather than becoming self-reliant. Boy, I could go on and on. We have too much going on in these in the media that's focusing on ridiculous things. We talked about now what the focus should be. So right now, well, there's not a lot of progress on most of these things that we just talked about. What do I want you to do? I want voters to rebel. I want a whole new paradigm of leaders in there, and you can do it. And when you can, rant, rant, rant.
Well, I'm going to sit